Now let's do a very fast review of what we've learned so far. We don't have to rush, because in meditation, we have to take it very slowly so that we learn it gradually. And for those who haven't been here for a long time, probably you need to know what we're talking about. So let's do a fast and quick review. So what's meditation? How to meditate? What's meditation? Meditation is from two perspectives. Stabilization, which is calming down the mind. When the mind is calm, the body is relaxed. Nobody can relax the body without calming down the mind. So calm the mind, relax the body. So meditation, the first part is calming or stabilization, a mental stabilization. And in the Sanskrit language is samatha. Samatha is the method. You use the method of samatha, and the effect is samadhi. Samadhi is the peacefulness so attained. So samatha, and then introspection. In the Sanskrit language is vipassana. And some people use a different translation. Samatha is translated into concentration. But we would like to use stabilization rather. Concentration, it seems to be that you force certain things to concentrate. Stabilization comes gradually. So calming down the mind comes gradually, naturally, and concentration seems to be an induced method. So we use stabilization. Introspection, some people use contemplation, but introspection gives the idea of not just contemplation, is to reflect inside, so introspection. And just to review very quickly, mental calming or stabilization is the initial method through which one is able to suppress emotions. So we have emotions, then you have to use calming down. You have to calm down, let go, so that you can get rid of your emotions. And then mental introspection is the primary essential through which one is able to eliminate delusions or to eliminate emotions. Calming down is just to calm down. You haven't eliminated the emotions. So if we consider emotions as someone who breaks in, a burglar, someone who breaks in, stabilization is tie up the guy who breaks in, and introspection, vipassana, is to submit the guy to the police entirely. So elimination of the emotions. And then calming is the provision with which one nurtures the consciousness. You nurture your consciousness towards wisdom. That's calming. And introspection is the technique which stimulates the development of spiritual understanding. So your spiritual understanding depends on introspection. We already have explained that. Right now we're only doing a fast review. You already have heard about that, so it's just a regurgitation. Calming is the supreme cause for the dhyana absorption. For meditative absorption. And introspection is the origin of wisdom. So no one can attain wisdom without doing both stabilization and introspection. So these are the reasons why we are doing calming, why we're doing introspecting. We can carry on. So meditation, let's break it down into the method of it. Stabilization, it's counting, following, and calming, or stabilization. Introspection is introspection, returning or turning, and purification. These are the 6 doors, we call it, the 6 gates to samatha and vipassana. And let's just do a fast review. What is counting? What do we mean by counting? When you're meditating, we say, okay, the 3 A's of meditation. What are the 3 A's of meditation that we talked about this morning? Alan talked about the 3 A's of meditation. A stands for adjustment. Adjustment to the body, adjustment to the breath, and adjustment to the mind. So, counting. What is counting? We have to cultivate counting, and then in the process of cultivating counting, we what? We realize the effects of counting. So one part is cultivation, is doing it, and realization is what we attain in doing it. A cultivation brings to realization. Like cultivation is that you germinate the seeds, and then you get the fruits. The seeds dissemination is the cultivation, and the final fruition of the trees, getting the fruits, is the realization. So what is counting? Counting, the practitioner regulates. When we're doing meditation, the practitioner, or the one who practices meditation, regulates and harmonizes the breath. We follow the breath in and out so that it is neither too rough nor too subtle. So you count it by saying, okay, when the breath comes in, I count 1. I go out, I don't count. Comes in 2, go out, I don't count it. 3, 4, 5, until 10. Then you go back to 10, to go back to 1 again. So you are counting unhurriedly, without rushing through it. Unhurriedly, subtly and slowly counting from 1 to 10. That's counting. You either count the in-breath or you count the out-breath. But most people count the in-breath. When it comes in, naturally, you don't force the breath. You don't try to make it longer or shorter. It just comes in naturally. Then you count 1. It goes out, you don't count it. Comes in 2, then you count it. Or you count the out-breath, but most people count the in-breath. You don't count both. You don't count 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't count that because it will be too fast for you. So you're counting only either the in-breath or the out-breath. But usually we count the in-breath, we count from 1 to 10. And then again to 1 to 10, 1 to 10, 1 to 10. Why don't we count it to 11, 12, 13, 14, 15? Because our breath, our counting usually goes away. As we always compare, it's like we have a monkey molecule stuck inside our nostril. That's how we visualize. And when we are counting, the monkey is sitting in here, and the monkey is all over the place. After you count to 5, the monkey goes away. You don't realize the monkey is going away. The monkey goes away to think about the past. The monkey goes away to worry about the future. The monkey goes away because there's a car honking outside, and you heard honk, boot, 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 honking. And the monkey goes all over the place. And you don't want that to happen. When the monkey lost 5 and 6, I want to pull back the monkey and stay put in here. Okay, you count again. Oh, I forgot where I count because the monkey goes away. The thought of monkey goes away. Then I start from 1 again. 1, 2, up to the count to 9. The monkey goes away because what? Somebody was coughing in here. I heard the coughing and I lost my count. Then you put it back and you count it again. So always from 1 to 10, from 1 to 10, and from 1 to 10. One focuses the mind on the counting and does not follow it to wander off or become scattered. You only have a counting thought. That's how we cultivate it. Is it that simple? It sounds very simple. Counting sounds very simple, but it becomes very difficult because you lose your count. And sometimes when you're counting and counting and counting, the monkey goes to sleep. You dozed off, you lose your count. So can you make your counting monkey staying put so that you can gain stabilization. You can gain a little bit of control in your thought. You know our problems? We cannot control ourselves. That's why emotions comes up. Depressions, jealousy, hatred, fear, anxiety, all comes up because you don't know they come up. Be the master of your own breath. Why do we use our breath and not a pool of water and not a candle flame? Because our breath is the most akin to you. It's the closest to you. It's as close to you as your thought. What is the closest to you? Mom and dad? Or closest to you, your money, your pocket money? What is closest to you? Nothing is the closest to you than your breath. So why do you still want to use a candle flame? Your breath. Your breath is the most vital activity inside of you. That's why you use your breath, okay? Then once you count and count and count, and you train yourself, you train your monkey that your monkey stay put, always 1 to 10, 1 to 10, 1 to 10, for quite a while. For 5 minutes, and then for 10 minutes, for 15 minutes, and then for half an hour. Oh, you're on your way. You're on your way to realization of all the benefits in counting. If you become successful, what do? You know your counting is well done. What happened when your counting is well done? When your counting is well done, you have the cultivation of subtle breathing. When your breathing makes no sound, when your breathing is smooth, when your breathing is long, and your breathing is deep with no obstruction, like when you have in the cold, when you have influenza, you got plucked up nose, you cannot count. So you're counting when you know that your breath is silent. You know your breath is not silent, you know. If you cannot feel your breath, if the breath is so silent that you cannot even feel it, people say, you're going to live long. Animals who have short breath, sudden breath, they don't live too long. A dog, only 16 years, 15 years, the dog will die. Horse. All those animals who have short breath, abrupt breath, they don't live that long. A turtle lives very long, hundreds of years. You can't even, it's breathing very silently, very subtle, very smooth, deep and long. Okay? So your breath, if you do the counting well, it will become smooth, silent, deep with no obstruction. Then you know you're cultivating the benefits of a good breath. The exhalation and the inhalation are of extended duration, such that they are as if the duration of the breath is as if, is my breath still there? I can't feel it. I can't even feel my breath. It is so subtle, so silent, so fine, so deep, and so long that I can't even feel my breath. But if it's there, then you know that you're successful in your counting. The mind has less and less scattering thought. Why? Because you've been concentrating on the counting. You're feeling content and peaceful. But it's very difficult to come to that part yet. So how do I know that I'm doing fine? How do I know that where do I go from here? I'm counting my breath, but where do I go from counting? When you know that your breath is deep, long, subtle, and silent, as if it's not there, you have achieved the realization of counting. And what do? Then you don't do counting anymore. You are going to the next, which is following. When counting is well done, the mind is content with peacefulness. The practitioner, the meditator, feels that counting is not fine enough. I don't want to be disturbed by the counting, it's too coarse. I want something more subtle. He does not want to bother counting anymore as the breath disappears. If the breath disappears, I'm counting what? I can't even feel my breath. What am I counting? I'm not counting. To him, counting is an attachment. He wants to let go of counting because counting is a nuisance. Because your thought is so fine, so deep, and so peaceful, so quiet that even counting is a nuisance. It's an attachment. He's going to a higher level of in and out breath meditation. He just wants to what? To follow the breath. He just wants to follow it. He does not want to count. He just wants to follow it. So we call it the cultivation of following. And then as he cultivates more and more and more and more experience, building up for a long time, he comes to realize the benefit of following. And how is he following the breath? The breath comes in, it goes through, the breath comes in, the air is cool, it goes through my nostril, it goes through my throat, it goes to my throat, and then it goes to my lung, and then it permeates into all my organs, and then it goes into my belly button, and then, I don't know, suddenly I lose track of it, but then it comes back again, and then it goes out through my nostril. But somehow it must have gone somewhere. I couldn't follow it anymore because when it goes to my belly button, my chakra, they call it, the ocean of breath. It goes through to my chakra 3 inches underneath my belly, and then I can still feel it, and then where is it going? The next fraction of a second, I realize it coming up to my nostril again, it goes out. It must have gone through my organs, right? It must have gone through my lung, my blood, my circulation. It has to be somewhere, right? So you're trying to follow it, and follow it as much as possible. So you're following your subtle breath. How long would that take you to go to following? It depends on how much have you done in your counting. Some people take 10 years to be successful in counting. Some people take 10 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Some people, not even in your lifetime. So, one becomes aware of the breath as now long, as now short, because you know, oh, how come my breath, I'm following it, now I know my breath is long and subtle and deep. And then another day when I'm doing meditation, I found out that my breath is not that long, it's short. I have a cold, so I have an obstruction. You just follow it. And then you realize that now it's permeating my body and now it's going out again. The mind and the breath are in a state of what? The mind and the breath, or the thought and the breath, are in a state of what? Mutual interdependence. Because you follow your breath, your thought follows the breath, your thought depends on the breath movement, and the breath follows the thought. So what does that mean? That means the most important activity inside your body, that is to say, the breath and your thought, are relating to each other. They're independent, but then they're related too. The mind and the breath has become fine and subtle. Your thought becomes very subtle. Your thought becomes very peaceful now, and your thought becomes still, following your breath. Next, the meditator, the practitioner, becomes aware that following makes me feel very peaceful, makes me feel very calming and relaxed and peaceful. I don't have an emotion anymore because I only have my counting, I only have my following. I'm in control. I'm the controller. I'm the controller of my breath. You're an accountant, you're the controller of all your books in the company, but now you are the controller of your breath. And the mind say, following is good. It makes me feel very relaxed, very peaceful, very calm. Then as you go following and following and following, and then you suddenly find that following is an attachment. It is so subtle and so fine that following is only a coarse activity. Even following, oh, I don't want to follow, it's an attachment. At this time, I want to get rid of following, because why should I attach to following? At the very beginning, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when you started counting, what did you follow? You follow your emotions. You follow your anxiety, your fear, your hatred, your greediness, your jealousy. And now, you're not following that anymore. You're following only your breath. You're following only your thought. And you know what you're thinking. Why do people commit crime? They don't know what they're thinking. When they get angry, they just fight. When they get angry, they just quarrel. When they get angry, they don't feel happy. Why do people feel depressed? Because he just feels depressed. And people say, oh, are you suffering from depression? Just let go of it. Just let go of it. And then, how do I let go of it? It's easier to say let go. I cannot let go. If you tell me to let go and I can let go, there will be no one suffering from depression, because I cannot let go. It just dominates me. And the counting and the following is the training yourself to let go. You can't just let go. You have to find an object of concentration to train yourself to let go, right? But if you do counting and following, you can easily let go, because you're following your thought, you're following your breath, your breathing activity. At this time, returning to following, you say that I already relinquished my counting and get to following. Now I'm so subtle, I'm so peaceful, I'm so tranquil that even following the breath, I want to relinquish that. I want to give up, relinquish, even following. But then, I should talk a little bit about following before going really into stabilization. When the practitioner relinquishes counting and relies single-mindedly on following the in and out breath, he is already free from distraction and scatteredness of his focus. Is already free from distraction. He's always, he has a very good focus already. And in between, in between following and stabilization, something happened in there. You already finished counting, you already finished following, but before you get into stabilization, something happened in there that makes you feel that my mind is calming, my mind is stabilizing. The Buddha said there are 16 feelings in between following and stabilization. In other words, there's 16 feelings that if you feel that, you're getting into stabilization spontaneously and naturally. What are these 16? We call it the 16 superior phenomena of practicing following. So you will feel the 16 superior phenomena inside of you when you're practicing following and going into stabilization. You just feel it. How long do you feel it? Maybe 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes, maybe half an hour, maybe 1 hour, maybe that's just 1 second. What are these? The first feeling is awareness that the breath is coming in. Some people don't even aware the breath coming in. Are you always paying attention to your breath? You just breathe. Why do I have to worry about my breath? Actually, our breath is the most important activity. Some people say, I have a body. This body is an entity. My body is an entity. My body exists. My body is very important. I have a self. This is self, self, self. But the Buddha said, your body is not an entity. Your body is only an activity. You know the difference between entity and activity? An entity has an existence, an inherent existence. But an activity only happens and go. You only have an activity. We don't have an entity. I already explained that. That's the reason why you don't have a self. We are non-self. We don't have an identity, but we think we are. We are living in a delusion of a dream. We're living in a dream of existence, and we don't even know about it. That's what the Buddha said. We're living in a dream of existence. We don't even know about it. You think you exist because you think, I think, therefore I am. Have you ever heard of that? I think, therefore I am. Who said that? It's Descartes who said that. I think, therefore I am, but actually, I think and I'm not, and I'm not what I am. I think, but I'm not what I am because I don't have an identity. I live in a dream existence. All right, getting back to the 16 feelings. The first is awareness, the breath is coming in. The second is awareness, the breath is going out. The third is awareness that the breath is long or short. When the breath comes in, you say, oh, this is a long breath. This is a short breath. Awareness, the breath permeates the body. Now the breath goes through my lung and it's very peaceful. I feel my breath. And some people's breath is very short, you know. When it gets to here, they can't feel it anymore. And the breath must be long, but some people's breath is very short. And then the fifth is relinquishing all physical actions. When you calm the breath, you release the body fabrication. You know what I mean? If you're meditating, when you're meditating, some people do what? They're shaking, they're moving, they're doing this, they feel itchy here, they feel painful here, they feel numb here. That's body fabrications. After some people, after 10 minutes, they feel the numbness inside the legs. And they struggle, and they struggle. Some people after half an hour, I can see it. Some people after half an hour, they start to move. Actually, they feel very numb in their feet, but they pretend it because they think that it's losing phase if they lower down their legs. That's body fabrications. When you are really in your focus, you don't have the numbness. You don't have body fabrications anymore. Number 6 is mental experience of joy. You feel very joyful. Number 7 is the mental experience of bliss. Joy is more or less like physical. When you don't have any body fabrications, you have the joy. But bliss is somewhat more mental. And when you have the joy, number 8 is the experiencing of all mental fabrications. We have body fabrication, the shaking and numbness and painful. And then we also have mental fabrication. You think about something else. Mental fabrication, you have all kinds of thoughts. Yesterday's thoughts, tomorrow's thoughts, thinking about tomorrow, thinking about now, thinking about the guy who's next to you, meditating. So you have also mental fabrications. But when you are really in meditation, you realize those visualizations. When you're meditating, all of a sudden you have mental fabrication. I thought about yesterday while I was attending a lecture. I was listening to this guy, and this guy talked about the economy. I disagree with him. Or this guy talked about biology. I disagree with him. Yesterday I was driving on the road and I was stopped by a police, and that cop was really bad and I don't like him. Oh, are these thoughts coming up to you? Those are mental fabrications. And then after quite a while of mental fabrications, they, oh, I'm sitting in here, I should be thinking of something else, I'll come back again. But you still have the mental fabrications that are not under your control because you're not trained to have the focus. You're training yourself now, but you haven't been well enough to have the focus. Number 9 is the mental production of joy. all of a sudden joy comes up in you. Number 10, the mental development of concentration. You have to focus. Number 11, the mental generation of liberation. You feel that you are liberated. You feel that you are so joyful, so blissful, that you are emancipated from the bondage of the self, from the bondage of the universe, from the bondage of your family, from the bondage of your job, from the bondage of your study, from the bondage of your emotion. All of a sudden you feel free. You feel you're liberated. Are we liberated now? Certainly no one is liberated. We're not liberated from the ocean of life and death. You're going to die after 100 years, not even 100 years. If you're 70 years old now, you'll die after 30 years. As I always mention, I don't want to scare you. In 50 years, people who attend it now, a high percentage will disappear, including me. Nothing is permanent. Why are you always looking for permanence? Why do you think that you have a self? Why do you think that I want to get rich? I want to buy a solid house, no matter what. I was traveling in economy, and my friends are traveling in executive business class, and I wanted to struggle up to so that I get the business class. And when you're in business class, you say, some people were traveling in first class. I want to be first class. After 20 years, you make a lot of money, you say, I don't want to be first class. Some of my friends have a private jet. I want to buy a jet plane. Your insatiable desires will drive you crazy. It also depends on how you make that kind of money. And okay, 11, the mental generation of liberation. 12, the contemplation of impermanence. All of a sudden, the concept, the truth of impermanence really is residing in you, that you feel it is impermanent. Right now, everybody knows the world is impermanent. You only know impermanence in a language, in words. In words. I read a lot of books, I saw a lot of video, and all these people on video, they say impermanent, impermanent, impermanent. All these books talk about impermanence. I know it's impermanence, but you haven't realized it. You only know the language. You haven't really know the truth of impermanence, the essence of impermanence, the inherent truth of it. Because when you know the inherent truth, that truth will be in your mind so much that you will go through a purification. Most people think that by knowing the meaning of impermanence, then you know impermanence. You only know the meaning, the outward meaning. You haven't come to a realization. You haven't come to an enlightenment of impermanence. You know what I mean? So we always talk about nirvana, Buddha. We talk about Buddha. Have we come to enlightenment of Buddhahood? No. We only talk about Victoria. We haven't. Every day you talk about Victoria, but you never traveled to Horseshoe Bay, and you never took the schedule, you never drive there, you never crossed the ferry. You only talk about it. I know Victoria, but have never been there. Only by arriving on the shore of Victoria are you at Victoria. Not just talking about it in a book, in words, in a chat, in a conversation. Okay, 14, the contemplation of abandonment of desires. By then, you have this tranquility, peacefulness, and joy in you that all your desires dissolved. Your desires for fame, reputation, needless to say, sexual relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever you say it. All those things suddenly, they're not important anymore. They dissolved. And all of a sudden you have a dispassion, not involved with the passion of greediness, hatred, ignorance, love, all that. And then you also have the introspection of abandonment of desire, the cessation of desires, the contemplation of renunciation. And you really feel that, there is a complete change in you internally. And these are the 16s, contemplation. And when you feel that, how long? Sometimes 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or to some people could be, on that particular day you're doing meditation, you're so much in your enlightened spirituality that the whole day you feel blissful. Then nothing is interesting to you anymore. You are in that spiritual, I don't know how you call it, you are in that spirituality where it's beyond description. Like what William Blake said in his poem, to see a world in a grain of sand, to see a heaven in a wildflower. Try to get that from that poem from William Blake, B-L-A-K-E, William Blake, very famous poem about enlightenment. All right. So stabilization. So what is stabilization? While counting or following with single-pointedness, the meditator becomes aware of the body and the mind seeming to vanish entirely, entering into a meditative absorption. The body and the mind does not exist anymore. He gains realization of an empty and still absorption through which he becomes aware of the body and mind as what? As tranquil, secure, and blissful. Nothing whatsoever is taken as an objective condition or is born in mind, as it is so controlled that it becomes focus in stillness, bringing all recollection, rumination, and expectation to a standstill. All your worries, your emotion, your fear, your jealousy, your hatred, all of a sudden comes to a halt. This is what we call what? Samadhi. This is what we call samadhi. All the recollection, all the worries, all the fear, the anxiety, everything, your expectation, actually all rumination of the mind or think about, suddenly come to a peaceful standstill. This is samadhi. But then samadhi is only dealing with stabilization, calming down the mind. It's not enough. It's only counting, following, and achieving stabilization. What happened when the practitioner gains samadhi? He gradually feels that the samadhi is devoid of any skillful means related with wisdom. I'm only focusing, do I have wisdom? I don't have that wisdom yet. I only have the stabilization, the calming down. All of a sudden, he naturally, spontaneously, is looking for wisdom, prajna. All of a sudden, he's looking for wisdom because he's already successful in calming down the mind. He's looking for wisdom. And the wisdom part is in the introspection, on this side, the introspection. Now the practitioner's mind is immersed in absorption. He begins to introspect his fine and subtle in and out breath as a wind in the midst of space. He feels nothing, he just feels there's a very subtle breath in space. He also begins to introspect all the 36 categories of his own body. When you are in samadhi, because you are used to attaching to externalities, and all of a sudden you don't attach anymore, that it seems that you're losing something because you are in a standstill. It's just like you are in a space, you are in nothing to hang on to. And then you know that the Buddha attained wisdom, right? Then you start to hang on to something that is the closest to you. Then you start to introspect what? Introspect your breath. You start to introspect your internal organs. We call it introspection of the 36 categories of his own body. Because what exists is no body. You think you have a body existence, but then your wisdom would naturally follow to, do I exist as a body? So you start to introspect your body. And when you introspect not only your body, you only introspect your feelings. The body comes out from the feeling. You only also introspect when you're not introspecting your body or your breath or anywhere in the body, when you are not introspecting the feelings, because you also have feelings, right? What kind of sensation? Good sensation, bad sensation, neutral sensation. When you're meditating, you also have this sensation, right? You still have cold, you still have this sensation. And then you also have, sometimes your thought goes away. When your thought goes away, then you put it back. You also have this mental feeling. And then you also have the Dharma's feeling, because you have a Buddhist concept in your mind, emptiness concept, the concepts of impermanence, the concepts of non-self, the concepts of suffering. All these things will work also when you are doing meditation in your introspection. And then this kind of introspection would come naturally to you, and then a question comes up in your mind. Now I'm unable to apprehend the existence of any person or Dharma, because you realize sunyata, which is no inherent existence, and then you will slowly get into, if I don't have any existence, who am I? What am I? You start to introspect, where does my thought comes from? What gives rise to all these things? In the first place, what gives rise to my mind that starts the counting? Who is counting? Who is following? Who is filling the focus? Who is introspecting? You're going to the source of all this. Who is doing all that? You're returning. You're returning to find out who is thinking. And we already have started. We stopped at that point in the last session. You are introspecting not only the concept, not only the body, not only the breath, not only how stabilized you are introspecting, who is this that is doing this introspecting? Who is this that's doing the counting? Who is this that's doing the following, the stabilization, and the thinking? You are going back to the source of the thinking. Who is this mind? You're returning to the source and find out, what is he doing there? And last time we stopped at that. I'm looking at the clock now. I've done a review of counting, following, stabilization, and introspection. And I haven't finished returning, and that's why I'm going to talk about next time.